And the dichotomy of what you've done here in Carpentersville versus what's going on in Detroit, that's why I really am excited to hear what you have to say about what you've done here through Otto Engineering and the company and all the beautiful buildings, but the homes that you are redoing. So I think our listeners would be excited to hear about that.
Say, when I came out here, I had about 25 employees. And but Tom came along. The company's working okay, but it had about 190 employees. It has 500 today, and it's a successful, very modern, very profitable, growing company, and it's had a tremendous effect on us. And a lot of it is his ability to manage and to lead both this town and this company into prominence.
Thanks, buddy. When you reflect on Detroit or Chicago, I mean, when Jack talks about corruption in Chicago, that's a meaningful thing. And when you elect somebody, you expect to trust them. And there are people that have fled Cook County because of corruption. And even today it goes on. We have some buildings that are for rent, commercial buildings. And we're working with a man who has a liquor store, or excuse me, a bar. And at 2:30 one night, the health department showed up, and he said, "I'm closed." And this is recent.
2:30 in the morning?
Yep. And he said, "We're closed." And he said, "Not for me, you're not." And he showed him his badge through the deal. And he wants out because he's got to pay that guy, he's got to pay the building guy, he has to pay the alderman. I was shocked. And you go to Detroit, and you had Mayor Young. I don't know that people remember that, well, that guy was there for 20 years. But you know what his job was before he was mayor? He was a union activist. And he was such a strong union activist that
Did that guy go to jail?
I don't know. But he was such a strong union activist that even the union didn't want him. And what he wound up doing over the 20 years of his tenure is he set in place a situation that couldn't get stopped. And Detroit spiraled down to being one of the best cities in the world, manufacturing-wise and esteem-wise and gross point-wise, to where now it is blighted. Go on Google Earth and you can see the areas, and they have pictures. It's horrible. When Jack came out here, he talks about it being blighted. There were 2,000 people working on Main Street in 1905.
Before I came here, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you think you're 90, you're not 190. So there were 2,000 people. They all left. Now, they were making plowshares and they were making springs for
There was a
buggy.
trolley that ran over, because this was not a bedroom community. It was just a manufacturing community. And there was a trolley that ran over from Elgin to bring people to work here.
Well, there's another one. Elgin was a manufacturing mecca, the watch company.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Elgin Watch from here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where did all of those businesses go? Well, one of the themes that I would say is that everybody loves jobs, but everybody hates job creators. Who are those millionaires and billionaires? You know, Jack says capitalism is a trick because he's a millionaire and he can't spend the brick at the
You
grocery
can't wear
store.
it, you can't eat it.
And
You may have a $100 million business. You can't use all the wealth from that, no how.
And your employees.
But you get tricked into thinking you own that company, and that's yours, and you're going to make it go right. So actually, capitalism is a trick to make a guy with a lot of money act like as if that's his place and it's going to run really good. And but actually, the huge majority of what it does is at the service of other people.
And that is exactly what job creators do.
Yes.
I'm the luckiest guy in America. I've got a terrific company, and it provides me a lot of freedom and a lot of associations and a lot of rewards for accomplishment. I love it. But this company's big enough for me. I don't need to grow it. But every one of those 500 employees want me to keep growing this. So if I don't, my good people will leave. So capitalism is kind of a trick. but I won't complain about
But that's the duty of a leader. It's to serve the people that are I mean,
I'm gonna introduce one more factor in this thing. That's a big one, and that's the death tax. Yeah. As I was building this thing, I spent an awful lot of time with insurance salesmen and the lawyers about what would happen to this company that was building in value. And because I'm 90 now, so I've been an old guy for quite a long while, and thinking about what happens when I die. Well, what happens is that within 90 days, the government wants you to pay 55% of the value of the company to them. What's that mean? Supposing the company's worth, just for the even numbers, $100 million. They want $55 million from you right out of the box.
They've done us a favor. They've lowered the rate to 45%.
Yeah. But most of the time when I had this problem, it was 55%.
I was joking about the favor, of course.
So there's all kinds of companies that buy up investors, that buy up companies, and so right away they pay you off, and away you go. You get enough money to pay the government a stinking hunk of money, and you're rich with the remainder, and so the community and the company can go to hell. And they will go there because the guys that bought it are now going to pay for their purchase from the profits of that company. The whole relationship with the employees and with the community gets destroyed by the stupid death tax. So what I had to do was buy insurance and lawyers and wiggle my way through the best I could until I found ways of gifting away the ownership of this thing through the years to put it in the hands of somebody who was going to be along for a while. It's a terrible thing. The worst impediment to a growing business is the government is going to take away half of it from you when you die.
How many, I mean, this is kind of off track, but you mentioned this. How many small businesses do you think have closed over the past 20 years, family businesses that have closed because of this tax? Any ideas?
Well, I don't think that I could count many. That the death tax is an important problem. But if one wants to talk about creating jobs, and most companies are small, and many will not find the death tax a problem. There's a $10 million exclusion, and most companies are smaller than that. But the regulatory burden has two problems. One, it does make people close their business. But more importantly, it makes people stop from starting their business. Mm-hmm. And corruption in your government, or the bureaucrat attitude in your government, makes those regulations, even if they are ones that are fair and reasonable, administered so poorly that they become unfair and unreasonable. And I think that's part of the problem that Detroit had, and it is part of the problem that Carpentersville had. And when Jack came here, this was a town absent leadership. It did not have leadership at the village board level. It had no large employer that was providing leadership. And he talked about a couple of things, and let me summarize. He started an Old Town association of people. The area was known as Old Town. And what he said to them is, I don't want to be the president of this organization. That's for you. You live here. But if you organize, you can elect people to the village board. And they said, we can elect people to the village board? Are you kidding? You have to organize. He was the founding member of the Rotary Club. He wanted to get the businesses organized. And, you know, it takes a while to make a good stew. And Carpentersville started to get some leadership from Jack.
This was probably about what year? In the 80s?
1968.
1968 is when it started.
Yes. When he moved out here, and I've told you before.
They started it in 61 in Morton Grove in a $150 a month building, kind of an industrial slum. And I moved out here in the late 60s.
Mm-hmm. But it is leadership that you need. And so he started this concept of leadership, and Otto also started to grow through that time. He renovated some of the capital stock. It gave other people hope.
What do you mean he renovated some of the Capitol stock?
Well, the building that he bought was an abandoned liquor store. He moved his business into there. So now he's got some, I'll call it vibrancy, but it was a slum. In 1978, he bought a 250,000 square foot building for $1 a square foot. That tells you how bad that building was. The first thing he did, it was a brick building built at the turn of the century, is he sandblasted the front so that people could see that there was going to be a change.